Welcome to Rich with Cars. If you're new to the channel, make sure to tune in for all kinds of car reviews and other car content, including this one on this week's review, which is a 2024 Volvo XC40 B5. I'm going to be going over, as always, the exterior, the interior, driving impressions, cargo volume, engine. Guys, let's strap in and take a look. So the XC40 is a small crossover SUV that competes with the likes of the Lexus NX, the BMW X1, BMW X2, the Audi Q3. And this particular one is an all-wheel drive version, and best of all, it's a hybrid. I've had this car now for about a week, and to tell you guys the truth, I'll probably choose some of its competitors. But to get started from the exterior overview, there are some things that I do like in terms of the design. It's typical Swedish design from Volvo. And one thing that I do like is that it doesn't have a massive grille like some of the other competitors. We have a very simple grille design with the Volvo badging here in the front. The signature daytime running lights, which are the Thor's hammer. I personally love the daytime running lights on the Volvos in general. It gives it a very distinct look, because when you're driving in front of it and you see these daytime running lights behind you, you know exactly what car this is because of the Thor's hammer. Then, because this is a base trim version, you don't have any other features here at the bottom. Like, you don't have a fog light area or any sort of like air curtain here at the bottom. And then of course you have some opening here for additional cooling. We have these 19-inch 5-spoke wheels. I'm not a big fan of them. You do get to see a little bit of the brake design behind it. It's a 2-piston caliper, but correct me if I'm wrong. And you have these sort of like Thor's hammer look on the spoke design as well. You have your roof rails at the top. And one thing that I despise on the XC40 is the fact that you have this D-pillar or C-pillar area over here. And I'll tell you guys, when it comes to driving, this particular area over here makes it very difficult to take a look at your blind view, just because this area over here is cut off. In terms of design, it gives it a sportier look, but like I said before, in terms of driving, it doesn't make it very easy. You do have an integrated roof spoiler at the top. You have a classic Volvo taillight design here at the top that basically moves almost all the way to the roof. Of course, you have your Volvo badging, which is not the actual logo, but it's written out like many of the other luxury manufacturers like Lexus, Porsche. And you have your B5 over here. As you guys can see, it is all-wheel drive. And then you have your reflectors at the bottom, and it's a very smooth and clean look. You don't have any sort of exhaust housings, and you don't get to see the exhaust. I do like the clean look from the back. The design on the key is very simplistic. You have nothing on each side, but then the buttons are actually situated on the side of the key. You have a lock, unlock, and a trunk opening over here as long as you hold it, and then you have your hazards over here as well. Or you do have keyless entry as well. So if you keep it in your pocket, as long as you put your hand on the door handle, it works out to unlock the doors. Now, starting from the door cards, very simplistic. It's kind of like teak wood, I think it is, the Swedish design type of wood as your inlays, but everything else is sort of a plastic injected mold, and also I guess you could say a synthetic leather. I do not like this felt lining over here. Kind of gives it a cheap look, in my opinion. You do have your window controls over here. Very simplistic door handle. You do have memory seats on this particular model, and your door card has space for one large 750 ml bottle, and then you have some additional space here on this behind it for some smaller items. As you guys can see, I have some sunglasses, a glass case, and some hand sanitizer as well. The passenger side seat is all manual, so being a base model or base model trim, you only have automatic driver side seats. Now the seats themselves are eight-way power, and I wouldn't say that they're the most comfortable seats. I did take this for a 9-hour drive, and I wouldn't say it's great. You do have a very simplistic seat design as well. Nothing too out of the ordinary, let's just say. I would probably feel that some of the competitors out there are much better. So in the interior of the XC40, you do have this 3-spoke steering wheel over here with some of the controls. These are your cruise control. These, to be honest with you guys, they don't function like anything. I think they're supposed to be for the automatic cruise control, but since this particular trim doesn't have it, it doesn't basically function anything at all. Your stalks for your wipers, and then your turn signals and your headlights. So you don't have your headlight switches anywhere on the side. They're actually on the left side stalk over here. You have your gauge cluster design, which is fully digital. I'd probably say that some of the competitors like Audi have a better gauge cluster design. One thing that I do like about it is the fact that you do have the option of having your map display here in the middle, but it doesn't have much in terms of adjustability. You could take off the map and just leave it very simple. Nothing changes because I believe that there are no different driving modes on this, so it makes it sort of very one-dimensional, if I could say that. Aside from that, you do have other functions where you can check your trip computer. You can reset it as well. There's really nothing else that this gauge cluster shows. So I typically leave it with the map on display, and the good thing is that the map, since it is a Google-based infotainment system, it does show you Google Maps on your middle display. Like I said before, you have a Google Android-based infotainment. So one cool feature that I like about this is that you can actually play or open YouTube over here, which is pretty cool. I don't know how it works in terms of what sort of network it uses, but at the end of the day, when you're parked, you could watch YouTube on your middle display over here, as you guys can see. So that's pretty cool. Based on the fact that you have Google Android based infotainment, you do have Google Maps as well, and of course you have Apple CarPlay as well. You have Google Assistant, you have the Play Store to add additional apps on your infotainment. One thing that I don't like about this infotainment screen is the fact that it is kind of small, and you cannot have multiple displays at the same time. So let's say I have the map, I can't have something else over here. Let's say I'll put on Sirius XM. I don't have another sort of split screen where I can see another functionality with that. So that makes it a little bit less utilitarian, I guess you could say, or less convenient. You do have some physical buttons over here, nothing too crazy. You have your hazards, front windshield defroster, rear windshield defroster, and then your seek and play and pause button over here alongside with your volume controls. The other thing also that I'm not crazy about is the fact that your HVAC controls are integrated into the infotainment screen, which you can find over there. And the only thing you can change immediately as a one touch from this screen is the fact of your heated seats. Aside from that, if you want to change any other settings on there, you have to go into the climate control screen as well. This being a base version of the XC40, you do have a rear view camera, you don't have surround view, and then that's your home screen over here when you press that button over here, which shows you some of the main screens over there as well. You have a storage area over here alongside with your wireless charger for your cell phone, a little extra storage area over here, a couple of cup holders, nothing too crazy. They're quite short, so I don't like the fact that they're short, because if you do have a tall drink, then you do risk the chance of it spilling over or leaning over, which is not very convenient. That's your gear lever over here. It's an electronic gear lever. And then finally you do have a couple of USB-C plugs over here. One's for charging, the other one's for connecting into the vehicle. And then finally you have your electronic parking brake, and automatic brake hold over here. You have your sunroof controls over there, which are basically a slide functionality, and if you slide it again, it does open the sunroof. You do have a extra cubby over here, which I find is very inconvenient, because when you put stuff in here and you want to grab it again, this kind of catches your hand as you're trying, because it's spring loaded. The cool thing though is that if you can, or if you want to, this is removable, so you can remove it and add extra space in your, I would probably do that myself, but then you got to find a place to put that somewhere. And then you have your middle compartment over here, which doesn't have any extra plugs or anything in there either. As for your trunk space, this is probably a little bit smaller than some of its competition. I'll show you guys what the cargo volume is on the screen. You do have a pass-through over there alongside with the folding seats. The seats do fold as well, so that gives you additional space. You do have a cargo cover, which is hard, so you could store this under over here. You guys will see there's a bit of space over here with the additional spare tire at the bottom and your jacks. So aside from that, there's no more space that you can put below that. And then a little bit of extra space here on the sides. As you guys can see, we have our little friend's bowl over here for his water that did manage to fit on the side over there. So cargo space, nothing too crazy or too special, but I'll show you guys once again what the cargo volumes are, and I'll compare that to some of its competition. For 2024, the Volvo XC40 now comes in all-wheel drive. Gone now is the front-wheel drive version, so it only comes in all-wheel drive, and it's powered by a inline-4 turbocharged 2-liter engine. It does push 247 horsepower and 258 pounds per foot of torque, I believe. And I'll show you guys also the EPA fuel efficiency numbers. It is actually aided by a 48-volt hybrid system, so that kind of does help a little bit also with fuel efficiency. Aside from that, the 0 to 60 numbers are actually not bad. I believe the 0 to 60 on the XC40 all-wheel drive are 6.1 seconds. So I believe the all-wheel drive does help it off the line in terms of the acceleration. Generally speaking, it is a pretty good engine considering a subcompact SUV. And one thing that I do have to say that I'm extremely disappointed on the engine is the sound that comes out of it. It sounds really bad. Sometimes when I do the cold start in the morning, it sounds like even as if it's like broken. It's got a very rattly, raspy sound. Aside from that though, the engine's been quite fuel efficient and pretty peppy. So generally speaking, the engine's actually pretty good. All right guys, so driving impressions on the 2024 Volvo XC40 B5 all-wheel drive. I've had this car for about a week's time now. I can't say that it's a very exciting drive, but it's you know, typical subcompact SUV type of driving feeling. The steering is extremely uncommunicative. You don't get to feel anything from the road at all. Very numb, very soft steering. The brakes are not that great either. I didn't feel that they're very confidence inspiring. In fact, when you do press on the brakes, it seems like there's a bit of a delay when you're pressing on the brakes, so you have to get a little bit used to that. In terms of acceleration, like I mentioned before when I was going over the engine overview, you have this turbo inline 4 2-liter. It's good enough. It does provide quite a bit of peppiness, but like I said before, I did not notice any sort of difference in the or the option to have different drive modes. So you just have a single drive mode and that's it. You can't actually change the ECU to to give it a more sporty feeling or a more eco feeling. You have that single drive feeling, and that's what it is. It's good enough for city driving, but I wouldn't say it's a great feeling. I did take this car also semi off-roading, and the suspension was pretty compliant. I wouldn't say it was super stiff. You could take this, you know, in some off-roading situations. I wouldn't say too much off-roading, but it's good enough to take it on some non-paved roads, and it will remain quite compliant and relatively comfortable, let's just say. I did mention before that this car does not have automatic cruise control or intelligent cruise control, so that can be a little bit annoying or inconvenient when you're driving on the highway, because I did take this on a long highway drive, and once you're used to automatic cruise control, it can become a little bit annoying or inconvenient, because once you're approaching the vehicle that's ahead of you that is not driving at the same speed or maybe slower, then you either have to disengage the cruise control, or what I've been doing was basically decreasing the cruise control limit. So let's say I'm driving at 70, person in front of me is driving at 65, then I bring it down to 65. The other thing also that I noticed as well on the cruise control, which is extremely annoying, is that when you're adjusting the speed for the cruise control, as you guys can see here on the steering wheel, the plus and the minus buttons over here. Now look on the gauge cluster. When I put on the plus, it goes by increments of 5, which, to be honest, in my opinion, is not a very convenient thing. I think on many other vehicles, to go into larger increments of 5, usually you hold the actual button. In this case, it's when you just press it, it goes in increments of 5, and if you want to go in increments of 1 mile per hour, you have to hold it, which then changes it, which to me is a little bit inconvenient. The gauge cluster is a little bit simple, but also convenient in that you do have the map, the Google map in front of you, aside from the one that you have on the infotainment screen. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick review on the 2024 Volvo XC40 all-wheel drive B5 trim. In my 1 week that I've had this car, I was expecting a little bit more. I would have preferred probably driving something else, probably like the Lexus NX, because I reviewed the 2022 version, which I'll put up on the screen for you guys to take a look at. But if it were up to me and I were to choose between this car or some of its competition in the subcompact SUV category, I'd probably go with something else. You still don't lose anything in trying it out or testing it out, see if you can get a good price on it. I don't think these cars sell that great compared to some of the competitors out there, like the Lexus NX or even the BMW's X1 or X2. Generally speaking though, it was pretty fuel efficient, but most of the vehicles in this category are fuel efficient, so I wouldn't say that this is the top of my list in terms of subcompact SUVs. Ultimately guys, as always, thank you very much for all the views, the likes. Stay tuned for more car content, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks, take care, bye bye.